passou dos 49 prometidos pelo árbitro. Cai a chuva. Que tensão. Cobrança de escanteio. Alisson! Alisson!
And good evening. Welcome to a very sombre edition of Pass&Move, the LFC podcast. We had a sombre crowd gathered in front of us today as we are here to pay our respects and our last wishes to Manchester United Football Club, who were laid to rest at the weekend. Perches have gone on sale in Liverpool in great number, and everybody who is a Liverpool fan should now be sat on a perch, waving two fingers at the whiskey-nosed bumbling tosser that used to be their manager, whose look of exasperation when flashed up alongside Kenny Dalglish's smile of joy was the fucking highlight of the afternoon for me. This is Pass&Move, the Liverpool FC podcast. I'm the Moose. This podcast will definitely today contain some fruity language, lots of it. So if it's not for you, fuck off. The rest of us are going to really enjoy ourselves as we talk about the ritual humiliation and sacrifice that was putting the bitter enemy down the road to the sword. I'm joined tonight by producer Matt, back from his exploits overseas. How are you, Matt?
I'm very good.
Is it a hair-raising trip?
It was, I was getting to the root of the problem.
We're also joined by Austin Callahan, who's got a short-term contract to disappear off to Ireland to frighten children, by the sounds of it. Austin, I believe.
Yeah, off for the Halloween festivities in good old Derry City.
We're joined in America by our usual late, tardy American, Manny. How are you, Manny?
A little bit late, but cheerful as always.
We have James joining us. How are you, James, my friend?
Getting better, thanks.
Still smiling?
Still laughing.
And we have a special guest tonight, John, from the Hype and Fatties Liverpool supporters group. John, tell us all about yourself and tell us all about the Hype and Fatties before we get on to discussing the slaughter.
Oh, on the spot there, lads. Bloody hell. It was a bit of a homage to the heightened baddies who were nothing to do with whatsoever. And we walked into one of the pubs a couple of years ago. It was about the 2001 season, and someone had shouted, "Fucking hell, here's the heightened fatties." And it was the time when we were quite fat bastards at the time. We're not as fat as we were, but the nicknames always stuck. Everybody knows who I am now. The flags are still there. We've had the banners, the t-shirts, the Twitter handle, the Facebook handle, the Instagram page. Here I am, John Joint, heightened fatties. Been going to match all my life. Pleased to meet you.
It's an absolute pleasure, my friend. John and I met at a festival watching that rarest of occasions. We might as well have been David Attenborough because we were there when Peter Hooton smiled, weren't we?
I think he had wind.
It was a rare occasion. Welcome to the podcast, my friend. Just to let you know, as I mentioned at the top of the show, there's no holds barred here. So if your enthusiasm runs away with you, as it often does with James, Austin and me, then please feel free to drop the odd word in whenever you want to.
Listen, all you've got to... Man United might not thank me, but get the contract out, put it on the table, let him sign it, let him write whatever numbers he wants to put on there, give him what he's done now since he's come in, and let him sign the contract and go. Ollie's at the wheel, man, he's doing it, he's doing his thing. Man United are back.
So, there was a game of football at the weekend, I gather, lads, wasn't there? Or one team turned up for a training session. I'm not quite sure what it was yet, really. Let's look at this in great detail. I mean, this is a bit like an episode of the Great British Bake Off where we're actually going to look at the ingredients, then we're going to look at the preparation of the meal, and then we're going to taste the oh-so sweetness of the end result. I was astounded pre-match when listening to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's by the way, have you noticed that? Whenever anybody describes him, it's never Ollie or the Manchester United manager. It's always Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. In one set, that's it. It's one word, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Even to Gary Neville, who played with him. I bet that was a mouthful on the pitch to get that out every time he wanted the ball from him. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was interviewed pre-match, he said, we're going to take the game to them. We're going to be on the front foot. And I sat back on my chair and thought, well, this is going to be a fucking laugh then, isn't it? This is going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
And,
unfortunately, that game he was playing was Squid Game, and he was playing the role of the losing guy in the game.
I'm going to go to Matt, because Matt is now hallowed in my memory and will be enshrined for coining the phrase the Norwegian PE teacher. But if ever anything summed up your thoughts or your opinions forever on the Norwegian PE teacher, Matt, it was his approach to this game, wasn't it?
What clueless. Yeah, it was appalling. I've been listening to loads of I've been listening to a couple of the Man United podcasts because they were hilarious. All the crying. The best one was I think it was like the Manchester Evening News journalists who were talking about how they've got a title-winning squad and it's just being mismanaged. And it's like, yeah, right. So, yeah, it was appalling, abysmal, and everything else.
Tactically, James, hilarious, wasn't it?
Yeah, a bizarre lineup with Greenwood and Rashford on the wings. And the
living statue in the centre.
Yes, yeah, and then they finished the match with one of the oldest front lines I've ever seen in Premiership football.
I've got written in my notes here, congratulate James for being the person to point out, fuck me, their attack line is 70 years old combined. It was a strange line. I mean, I've apparently read that Eric Bailly has basically threatened Solskjaer now for picking at the Leicester game previously an unfit Harry Maguire over him, because that worked out really well. So he obviously thought, Leicester will go again. We'll do that again. We'll pick Slabhead again in the back four.
You picked an untalented Harry Maguire as well.
Yeah, he picked. Well, that's.
Is there a talented version?
Yeah. What do you expect for 80 million quid? I mean, come on, you don't expect a footballer, do you, for 80 million quid? You expect a lumbering behemoth with a face like Lurch from the Addams family, and all of the mobility to go with it. John, welcome to the pod. As I said, you couldn't have joined us on a better week. It was hilarious, wasn't it?
I'm just laughing. I think that Ole Gunnar soft shite, as we call him around here. He's like the Nick Leeson of football management, isn't he? I think if you bought Harry Maguire off Wish, you'd get Harry Maguire. What an absolute fucking comedy act of a team they are at the moment, and I'm loving every single minute of it.
For me, it's loads of things I like, so we will bounce around the game and things in it. I've seen some wonderful stuff, like you, Matt. Seen some wonderful stuff. One of my favourites is that vile gobshite Andy Goldstein on Talk Shite, who got up and left the studio after 5 minutes of his show because Jason Cundy wouldn't stop playing You'll Never Walk Alone. Jason Cundy is a vile little troll, in my opinion, anyway, and not a vile specimen of humanity, but fair man to him. Yeah, Goldstein got up and left. He said, I'm going to go. You carry on with this shit. I'm going to go. Up he off he went. It's just joyous. You don't get. Somebody else summed it up quite nicely for me as well, Austin, is that we're used to these games at the business end of the season. These games happen post-Christmas mostly, where you get the Barcelonas or in. If not a semi-final, not a final. I'm struggling to remember a better afternoon watching Liverpool Football Club over the last 40 years, to be honest, because it was dreamland.
The beauty of it, we didn't even get out of third gear. It was just a fucking animal in the park, and once we went 2-0 up, you're thinking, well, we could get a score here today, and I think at 5-0 we declared, because they were there. That was the only disappointment of the day. They were there for the taking, 10 men.
two trains of thought on that for me, Austin, as well. One, as much as he can be a bit of a gobshite nowadays as well, but I still like him. Carragher urging the team to go for 7, 8, 9, willing the team from his commentary position that you'll never have a better chance than this. You'll never have a better, in other words, finish him off. I thought was great. But then the subtlest, he probably didn't even mean it that way, but it came across that way. The subtlest and the best of all the digs I've read was Klopp saying, well, after 50 minutes, after the red card, we thought, you know what? I think we've got this in the bag. We'll go easy for the next half an hour. In other words, we didn't need to try from that point onwards.
I think they only went easy because they only switched off and just passed it around them because they started kicking lumps out of us.
Yeah, it was stay away from them, wasn't it? Yeah, and don't get a red card back on the other side, which we'll come on to the referee later, who I think gave one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen in the Premier League this season. I thought he was appalling. But it was, they were a mess from start to finish. So let's look at them. Let's do what everybody else has done. And then we're going to cast them to one side and we're going to talk about the joy that was Liverpool's performance on the day. If you're a pressing team, someone better tell the team that all of you have to press. Not Bruno Fernandes on his own for the first 5 minutes with every other fucker behind him going, you having fun up there, Bruno, chasing everybody down on your own? It's just their formation I found staggering. And their midfield, I think most of their players are overrated, overvalued and overrated anyway. But to start with a midfield of McFred and McTominay and expect to boss it against a team as in form as Liverpool. But I mean, you couldn't even boss it against Atalanta as second string. Atalanta had 6 players out by the time they got halfway through that match. And United scraped through it. And John and he thinks, I'll tell you what, we go again, lads, shall we?
No, I can't stand them, but there's not a single player out of United I've had in our team.
Nah,
not one.
Nah.
Not even on the bench.
Nope.
Not even cutting the half-time oranges. Not a single one.
No, not me. I think they're all vile. I can't stand any of them. I've got a little bit of off-the-pitch respect for Marcus Rashford, but as soon as he puts a red shirt on, that fades out very, very quickly, unfortunately. But
I did pick Rashford in my combined 11. I have to admit that. But I wasn't even sure he was playing Saturday. Didn't see him at all.
Well, just
Ronaldo's come in and he's fucked them up. You know, they had a couple of good games. He's just fucked up because they were getting somewhere towards last season. I know they finished second because we had a shite season, but they were sort of getting a bit of a structure. But he's come in and he's just fucked everything up for them.
That's the problem.
I've seen that coming, because he is everything about them. They're all individuals in that team. They're not playing as a team the way that.
If you're Jadon Sancho, you're on your phone to that age, your agent now, going, "What the fuck have you got me into here?"
Seen that at the Beak, is it the Beak you call him, or the Beak fucking Charlie head fucking?
You mean Donny Van de Beek husband? You mean?
But Nathan Beak is a
Nathan Beak. Yeah. John, I should explain that. That's an ongoing gag. Austin invents footballers. Like, for some reason, we had 3 Williams brothers playing for us last season, including Mason, who Austin rated as the best of the young 3 brothers who fucking exist. But that
the on 50 Beak, then, is he?
Yeah, Mason and Nathan Beak. I mean, look at I don't understand the ethos behind that football club. You've put Cavani on decent wages. You've decided to do that. You've bought Jadon Sancho. You've built your side. And then 2 minutes before kickoff for the season, you go, I know, let's bring back a 36-year-old and pay him £500,000 a week and completely fuck off everybody else that we've brought into the squad.
Yeah, but their share price went up loads. So that's all it was about.
Yeah. And how many kits are they selling with Ronaldo on the back? That's what they crow about. But again, they're buying players just to say we got them. There's no cohesion. There's no plan. It just here's a name, let's get them. They got Donny van der Beek, doesn't fit into the system. Jadon Sancho can't get a sniff. Ronaldo is in there, but they're trying to build a system around him, and it's not the way they should be playing. They can keep doing this forever. I hope so. I hope they don't ever see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, Matt has this belief that Ollie does it like stickers in football. He says, good ones, isn't it, Matt? I'll get some good ones.
It's like top trumps. So he just lines them up with like all the ones with 90 plus pace.
Match attacks.
Puts in the wings.
The match attacks, isn't he?
Match attacks. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But it's not really even the team's really like the squad's actually really good. It's just the way they're coached. And he got, for some reason, he told them to press, and then they're just not a pressing team.
Well, no, you can tell someone to press. It's a good idea, better if you instruct them how to
but
press.
you have to coach that.
Yeah,
and it has to be coached and drilled to within an inch of your life, because it's not a simple thing to do. It's a team thing to do, and you have to all do it at the same time. You've all got to be on the same wavelength, otherwise Sunday happens.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the video clip of Foster, the Watford keeper, talking about how Liverpool play, and after being in goal and seeing how they play, it's like people are just in positions and everybody knows where everyone's going to be without having to look. So you could do a cross-field diagonal and know there is going to be someone there. And then that person has the skill and the talent to bring the ball down on their foot, control it, and take on to the next play. And he was even saying it's going to be impossible to play against them because they're just so well trained and well drilled. And when you try to see United do the press, it was comical because, like you said, Fernandes pressed, and then no one else is pressing. And then Wan-Bissaka is trying to cover 20 yards to cover the next guy, and then he leaves a big gap, and everyone's just going into the spaces they're vacating. It's awful.
But that second goal came about because Wan-Bissaka decided to press for no reason whatsoever. He didn't need to go and press because Greenwood was on it, and all the gaps opened up because Maguire shifted across, Shaw started shifting across, Lindelof was there shifting across to cover Wan-Bissaka, and then the mess happened and we scored again.
I love the
league called football, wasn't it? Like that, she felt like this. Were they on the Raz last night? Like, just fucking turn. I was waiting for to say the pitch and have a piss, like,
It's the sort of stuff my under 14s wouldn't do. Like I have my badge, but I have one badge. I'm like a level 1, the lowest coach you can be, and even I know you shouldn't do that.
I like the fact that even though when they did try and press, if there was a 21 yard press on, they'd do 19 yards of it and then think, that's enough.
Yeah.
I'll run up 7 or 8 feet away from the guy. That'll do.
Well, if you look at the first goal, right? Robertson starts it off, and if not for Naby Keita scoring the goal, Robinson's in the box. There's no other Man U player who chased him, ran with him, came back. So the guy who starts the break for us is the only person in the box ahead of any other United defender. They just kind of said, give up. Like, we tried to press, that one didn't work. We'll try again on the next one.
Ambly about, we could talk about this for ages, but okay, let's we'll do certain incidents within the game in a second. I'm going to do one now. This is a slight little bit out of order, but Konate's manhandling of various Manchester United action figures around him that tried to assault people is something that I'm agreeing with James. James put on a comment on our Facebook page, John, earlier that he'd like to see this on loop somewhere for eternity. Just, my God, the bloke's a unit.
I did not realise how fucking big he was.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's fucking an absolute beast, isn't he? And he's our beast as well, which is fucking great, isn't it?
Yeah. The one-handed drag on
Frank at fucking police academy.
He's got the deadly combination. He's tall. He's also bulky and big, so he's not going to be pushed around, and surprisingly quick. Like, there are moments where I'm like, shit, he's not running with his guy. And before you know it, he's caught up and won the ball back. So
there were 2 wonderful moments in that. The first one was, obviously, I know, James, you didn't think it was a red card and probably had the right to go for the ball, but he used that to his advantage, that kick on Jones. You could just as easily have seen someone go for that as stay on the pitch. All right, so I get that. And to quote Sir Alex Ferguson, he could have fucking killed him there. Couldn't he have killed him?
Gary Neville, he played the ball.
It's just superb. But Big Virgie's chest bump on Ronaldo that nearly knocked him over was a beautiful highlight. Then obviously Flappy Dumbo ears comes in from behind to shove Virgil. And then the Hulk arrives, pushes him, and Fernandes turns around and soils his shorts instantly at the sight of what's in front of him. It's like a look of fucking hell.
Fred
nothing to do with him.
Fred tried to jump in then, doesn't he? He just fucking pushes him away, just, you know.
As I said, the one-handed one on Fred is... It's like picking up your child, isn't it? And just like, get over there and get out of the way.
That was another laugh moment when you've got Canate and Van Dijk versus Fernandes and fucking Ronaldo. There's only one outcome there, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
That's one of those where you're the rest of the Man United players. It's like when you're out with your mates and the littlest, gobbiest one of your mates starts a fight and you look around and think, oh, thanks a fucking lot for that. Yeah, cheers. Yeah. Cheers.
I also like Robertson's finger in Ronaldo's face to start it off as well.
Robbo loves this because Robbo's normally the enforcer, isn't he? Robbo's normally our shithousery supreme.
Little head shove on Messi.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that Robbo probably looked at them two and went, "No, you got this, lads. It's all right. I'll let you have this one."
That's what we've needed in the team for a couple of years, though. A couple of lads who just don't give a shit and just will get stuck in and argue with people. Great, I love it.
Yeah. And then Jordan has his moments in the middle of the park as well, but he's certainly wised up to the point of view of play the referee now rather than just. I mean, James was on the pod with me. I think Manny was as well way back in the day. Still one of my favourites is him fronting up that mouthy tosser at Chelsea as well. Like, where he basically says to him, "You and me, tunnel." He says to him on the pitch as well, and Costa just disappears into the background as well. So joyous. Men against boys was the phrase I was going to lead to. That in every single area, wasn't it? It was they had one player, David De Gea, on the day, and when you've been smashed 5-0 after 60 minutes and your goalkeeper is your best player, God, you really are in trouble, aren't you?
Mm.
Yeah, well, I think De Gea relies too much on he's able to save everything with his legs. And I think for Salah's goal, his first one, right? The one where he kind of dinks it over him. I thought De Gea should have come out, right? I think he stayed too far back because Salah's touch was a little too hard to start, right? I thought the ball had gotten away from him and De Gea would have swallowed that up. So I think he just stayed too far, gave him too much credit there. And he paid the price for that one. I think he was kind of at fault for not coming out and challenging him more on that one.
It's the Manny Pereira statistics segment.
All right, I got some stats for you. Manchester United scored 0. Liverpool scored 5. That's about it. About 50,000 people left the stadium.
That was the Manny Pereira statistics segment.
Before it ended.
This is the kind of content people subscribe for.
Yeah, this is right. This is the kind of talk that puts asses in seats.
And you're on fucking orange juice and not alcohol this week, unless there's something in there I'm not expecting.
No, that's an insulator. There's alcohol.
The stat that stood out for me that I seen today, I couldn't believe that's only our 18th win there in the league.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, because
we had 25 years of whiskey nose bossing it, to be fair, didn't we? So
we weren't that great in the 80s there either, were we?
No, in the 70s, obviously, but they were relegated a few years, and then they. So,
has it been a happy hunting ground for you ever, John?
No, it's always been a fucking nightmare. Very rarely you win.
I've been about 8 times, and we've won 6. I was there in the Murphys and all that, was winning and all that. And then the last time...
I was there for the Murphy free kick. The worst one for me was I had tickets for the 4-1, Austin.
Yeah.
Right? And then basically couldn't go and went, we won't fucking win it anyway. And then spent the next day going, oh, no, I don't believe it. Yeah.
And I was there the last time. Well, when Suarez got us, when it was 3-0 on the Rodgers, that was the last time I've been there, you know. And then I've been as well when Liverpool played Chelsea in the FA Cup, Robbie Fowler. So I was only been beat once when I went there, and it was in Ferdinand, got that last fucking minute one. Now came up at our end, so it hasn't been too bad for me.
Yeah, it's never been a particularly good place for me to go to for any game, really, basically because it's Old Trafford. So, looking at Liverpool performance, I'm going to come to one particular man because, again, way back in the mists of time, Manny and I had when we signed a young Weirsider, Manny and I couldn't understand why we'd signed this like great little playmaker from Sunderland and decided to play him right back, right wing, left back, rather than anywhere than we'd actually bought him for. And we developed a bit of a dislike for the person who became our captain. We have since avowed, sold our children into slavery and made the regulation apologies. Well, Maida Chris Nabby's had a bit of a slating from me. The season, just kicking the grass, getting himself injured, looking the wrong way at a set of traffic lights and twisting his whatever. He seems impossible to stay fit, the poor lad. I have to say though, okay, you can only play what's in front of you, and if they're going to give you the whole of the part to play in, but Henderson and particularly Naby Keita were superb at the weekend, absolutely superb. Definitely, John, what you say, his best performance in a Liverpool shirt.
Yeah, if he can stay fit, he'll be the exact reason why we bought him. Do you know what I mean? But he's been a bit like jelly, hasn't he, for the last every couple of games, now go out injured for half a dozen, whatever. But if he can stay fit, or even if he plays, does some absolute worldies, goes off and then comes back on the next game, I'm happy with that. Do you know what I mean? Just use him as we need him.
Yeah, he is becoming the Alberto Aquilani of the team, isn't he?
Yeah.
He seems to be happy though.
Sunday, wasn't he? With that Pogba tackle, but I think it's better when we are on the front foot going for the game in the early game. I would just say play him in the first half, get 3-0 up, bring him off, the fucking Fabinho on, check what we have.
Yeah, that works for me. I know. I thought defensively, I mean, Ronald McTominay and McFred didn't have a clue what was going on. I don't think they had a sniff for at least until the red card. I don't think they just.
But that is again how they're setting up because of Ronaldo. So they've got 4 forwards and 2 midfielders pretty much, and then between them there's about 40 yards of grass, and it's how no one has pointed that out to Solskjaer is beyond me. But I don't know. I suppose he's too busy revising or something.
John, Bobby got his packed lunch out in all the grass he had to sit in, didn't he, at certain times?
He had an easy day, didn't he? I think the whole bloody team had an easy day, to be fair. Like, he wouldn't have needed a shower at the end, put it that way.
Gary Neville apparently said to Jamie Carragher, and he since denied it and then admitted that he did say it. He said, have a fucking look. Van Dijk's kit's not even dirty at the end of the game.
Just kick when we had the weekend off.
Well, look at the goal. Let's look at the goals individually. Naby Keita's goal, finished it well, lovely move, cut through them like they weren't there. I'm going to ask a question. When did you know that was going in?
The minute it left his foot.
Now, for me, it was the pass to Salah.
Was clear.
The pass to Salah at that point, I think this is in. Just thought there and then, I thought, yeah, this is definitely in.
The ass was off the seat, and you just go, yeah.
I think the only fear is that that might have been offside, but I think once we saw the replay, he was well behind the defender. So it was. Like I said, Robertson starts that play, and he's the other Liverpool attacker in the box ahead of any other United defender. I think he ran by 5 United players in order to make that run, and everyone just lets him get by like that. How could it not have been 5-0? Right? They're not even playing.
The second one, there was a great tweet from a Manchester United fan who put James Milner's as old as Ronaldo, and he's more dangerous in the box than the bloke we're paying £500,000 to for the second one. Because if it hadn't been Jota, it would have been Milner who put that in as well. The third I loved because that's something that I really like about Salah is he's incredible. James, I've mentioned this a lot. He's incredible body strength and low centre of gravity. It's like the moment that ball's flicked out to Keita, he's just off, and he's just away. He's a good second or whatever in front of everybody else mentally, and he's just off. And he doesn't get many what I call poachers finishes, and I think he was over the moon at that. But it leaves them for dust, and it just shrugs people off, and away he goes. It's just fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And Luke Shaw did his best attempt to hold him, and still couldn't stop him.
Bit like Diego Maradona, he was the same, low centre of gravity. Fucking couldn't get him off the ball when he had it. Like, you know, he's just another word great. Like, you know, so
yeah, Messi's the same. It works the same for Messi as well, doesn't it? The low centre of gravity and the speed of brain and speed of movement. Obviously, then we had the fourth, and then what a pass, John, what a pass for the fifth goal.
Just unbelievable flick at the outside of the foot, wasn't it? Just fucking unbelievable. I just can't stop watching it. Do you know what I mean? And you're normally waiting to get to see it at the back of the net, and I just loved the bend on it as it leaves his foot and just lands right in front of him. I thought, oh my God, that's just unbelievable.
That's Gerrard against Fulham. That rolled that back to for me as well. You know, the Gerrard through ball for Fulham. You know, I thought Salah's for Mane was a bit special the other week, but that was just a different level.
I reckon they've been training.
And that's what's pissing me off a bit of it. As someone said after the game, well, if that was De Bruyne or someone like that doing it, they'd be fucking saying, oh, fucking how great and all that. Like, he's not kid. Like, there's a hat trick at Old Trafford and all, they're talking about how bad United were, you know. Fucking,
yeah.
And it was the same great pass from fucking Hendo, like, you know, and the finish from Salah. But if it's, as I say, if De Bruyne was doing that, they'd be fucking, whoa.
I'm a big fan of the media going that way because I think we played better with the chip on our shoulder.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I thought the finish though. I thought the finish from Salah for the fifth goal, because he almost loses it, but then it's lethal. It just almost his second touch is, you know, it takes it away from him a little bit, but then it's old, you know, the very first Ronaldo, you know, Ronaldo version 1, the first Brazilian one. Just the toe poke is just stunning, you know. It's just he's ice cold, and he's got ice in his veins. That guy as well. I never now think he's ever going to miss.
Yeah, you had Ian White saying, "How did he do that?" Because, like you say, the second touch was pretty poor, and then he just finished it.
Well, it's the bewildering speed of the feet again, James, isn't it as well? Because you're thinking, oh, he's over. Oh, it's in.
Sprints with the ball, fucking, and so unreal. You know, I think it's maybe lulling the goalkeeper in their false sense of security. I haven't done that.
Yeah, I think it's like he is so fast that I think sometimes his first touch is a little too hard because of the pace he's carrying when he's trying to, you know, just ease the ball forward a bit. But again, I think De Gea stayed in goal or didn't come out enough, and Mo Salah was just always going to capitalize on that.
As I said at the weekend, Tutankhamun's got a Mo Salah shirt.
We can, you know. Okay, this was my. So I watched the game, obviously, and then did some work, and then I thought to myself, match of the day too. I think so. Yeah, we'll do a bit of match of the day too. I did match of the day too, and then still buzzing. So I decided to do match of the day 2 again. That took me to about 1:30 in the morning, and I finally managed to drag my ass off to bed. And then the following morning, I actually had to sort something out in the house. It involved me. Normally, I've got the office inside the house, but I had to sort something out in the house. And so I thought, I'll do that in the living room. So I needed some distraction. I was sorting papers and things out, and I just hit the TV button. Guess what was on? Hour and a half again of doing nothing, sitting there again, watching it again, thinking, I think it could easily go into my top 5 favourite movies of all time, that as well, you know. I think the wife thought I was watching Pornhub at times as well.
It was like watching Pornhub, wasn't it? Allegedly.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're going on about.
Pornhub turned it down because it was too much filth for them.
Yeah, they don't like to see 11 men getting bashed around. No, that's not. So let's have a look at the individual performances. It's one of those days where I'm not going to talk about how bad the opposition were, because we made the opposition that bad. I couldn't find a flaw. Could you?
No, I mean, Canate made a slight mistake that led to their chance that Sancho blasted into Rose Ed. And Jones was a bit...
You mean Fernandez?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So,
and then Sancho was sat in Rose Ed.
He was passing it to him. And then Jones was a bit poor when he came on initially. For like 10 minutes.
Yeah, for a couple of minutes while he got used to
that scrappy 10 minutes when we started to think, oh, hang on. And that was it.
Yeah, I felt for Millie because he was obviously gutted. He was probably seriously looking forward to that. And, who wouldn't be at his age a nice leisurely stroll around Manchester on an afternoon, like occasionally touch a ball when it comes near you and flick it off towards somebody else. No, I couldn't fault it. I think you have to give the credit not only to the players for that, but I mean, my word, men against boys, we said in every area, and then you come to the manager. My God. They had researched that to the nth degree. I mean, if you've read some of the things going around, they were prepared for, they could not believe, because they prepared for 4 or 5 different lineups, obviously. And that was the one that they thought there was least chance of United lining up with. When they got that team sheet, they must have thought, fuck me, this is great. So
yeah, but it was like Paul Scholes and various other people had said if they play like they did against Atalanta and they play a decent team, they'll get crucified.
The first half really worried me. As I've said before, look, and I get it, and people are going to say I'm miserable and probably get slagged off by United fans, but that's just the way I thought. I looked at that game thinking about Liverpool on Sunday. Maybe it's the wrong thing to do, thinking about Manchester City, because I thought in that first half, United were all over the place. They were disjointed. They had the 2 midfield players playing on their own. Now, if you do that against Manchester City or Liverpool, half-time, it'll be 3 or 4-0. You'll be out of the game. You're not coming back.
If they played that same thing and they just set out exactly the same, played exactly the same, and it's like, what, are you fucking mad? He's not mad. He's just a fucking PE teacher. He's awful.
Who else, John? Did you want to see Roy Keane in that studio?
Oh yes.
Yeah, he'd have been crying his eyes out. I'd love to have seen what kind of bullshit excuse wormed his way out of it. He'd come out. It was bad enough watching that clown Neville not trying to say Solskjaer's shite.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Without saying Solskjaer's shite. So Roy Keane would have been even worse.
I love Carragher basically going, well, I know he's your mate, but I know he's your mate, but I know he's your teammate, but in other words, come on, say it.
Did you get on Neville basically turning into a Little Britain character though and going, I know.
New, but yeah, but new, but yeah, but new, but.
As boys even got higher than characters at times.
The burning question.
The smiles and laughter on Souness and Carragher's face were thanks enough. I didn't need to see Neville say anything.
Souness coming out and saying what every Liverpool fan was, no, you plough on with Ollie. You want to plough that furrow with Ollie. You carry on with it. It was. I do have the burning questions. 2 burning questions of the days. One: why does a Manchester referee always get that fixture?
What, Manchester's Anthony Taylor?
Yeah, Manchester supporter of Altrincham. Yeah, like fuck he is. That four potential red cards gives one of them. Ronaldo, 50-50, could have gone either way. If you're going to get sent off in the Champions League for putting your boot into the head of a Liverpool footballer, why don't you get sent off at Old Trafford for putting your boot into the head of a Liverpool footballer?
Yep.
With right dead Fred. And then Maguire's the last man.
Yeah.
But he played the ball, he said.
But I'm quite glad he never sent any more off, because they just started saying, oh, we only had 9 or we only had 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was long enough into the game that we absolutely fucking marmalised them.
Yeah. And I think what keeps getting glossed over is it was 5-0 before the sending off.
Yeah.
Right. We took mercy on them like I do when I'm playing against my son. Right. That it was. I think it would have been less embarrassing to run up the score because at least we would have thought they were competition. The fact that we said it's enough, the mercy makes it more embarrassing.
You don't take mercy till it's 32-0 though.
Yeah.
Right. But I wait till he cries first before I let up. But there is mercy.
Setting off Fernandez for that snide tackle on the
that was another one.
Touchdown.
That was an awful tackle on Jones, wasn't it, on the line? That was a terrible tackle. Fortunately, Naby was up and dancing in the dressing room apparently at the end of it, and that's just a little bit of bruising. So hopefully that won't be so bad. And the second burning question of the day was Jermaine fucking Defoe.
He's still not playing. I wasn't aware he retired. I feel like he's one of those guys who won't go away.
What's he doing here? Excuse me. Have they opened the door and let him wander in or something? I mean, what was just?
And what did he bring to the table? Fuck all. He just sat there.
Someone must have left a ball at the door and he just poached it in like all of his goals.
Roy Keane dragged him in.
John's got a point there. Roy Keane stood at the door going, "No, you fucking go in." No, I'm not going in.
I thought he was actually quite good on some of the like striker analysis. He was almost licking his lips, going, "Christ, I wish I was still playing."
Yeah, I don't mind Jermaine Defoe, but I'm just I was struggling with the context, and then typical of the lack of care and attention and the lack of respect that British football has, the Premier League had for Liverpool. There's no fucking Premier League game on a Monday night. So Neville gets away with it as well. Neville gets away with being crucified on television. I said to Matt, I'm so looking forward to Monday Night Football. Then looked at the schedules, went, "You bastards."
Yeah.
To be fair, he got pretty roasted on Sunday.
Yeah.
Souness and Carragher just digging and digging and digging and digging. Oh,
Martin Tyler Salah just got his hat trick, like he says, the first in the Premier, only the second in the Premier League after Derek Kite. Added to that small list. I says, "You fucking bitter fucker," like, you know. Any fuck. Just
Matt wrote a great piece on the Facebook page. When you say about barbed wire, Matt?
Oh, he's had to tighten the barbed wire on his leg.
Yeah.
It's just Martin Tyler. Go on then, James. Start with Martin Tyler because you have normally such wonderful opinions on his commentating skills, and then tell us how the rest of the press took to it.
Well, I mean, Martin Tyler was relentless throughout the match. I mean, he started off with saying, "This is what United do. They go behind and then they turn on the style." I don't know when they're planning to do that, whether it's this season or next. But, you know.
Wait for the next fashion show.
Manchester.
I mean, James Debbins, friend of the pod on the Facebook group, came out with that brilliant line of... Little Martin's going to get a thrashing with the wire brush at half time, which just killed me, absolutely, although it made me feel slightly sick. And then, Neville was calling Alisson desperate when he dove after that Luke Shaw shot that was going a foot wide, which if you watch the replay, you can see Alisson looking at his post.
Yeah.
You go, "No, I've got that covered. That's fine."
Exactly. He lets that go by. He intentionally doesn't save it because it sees it going wide.
Yeah.
That's what a real keeper looks like.
And then obviously the Tyler came out with this day's just been spoilt by the 2 injuries for the Liverpool players, which again I thought was amazing. Glass half full commentary coming out of him. But then he topped it off with only actually raising his voice in excitement when De Gea saved Trent's shot in the last half hour of the game. It was the only time he sounded excited. Every other goal was, Liverpool 5.
Yeah.
And then De Gea makes a save. He's like, "Oh, world class." I don't know how that sort of thing's allowed, really. You know, you've got a Manchester referee and... Well, he's not actually from Manchester, Tyler, but he's allowed to commentate.
That makes him the perfect. I mean, I'm here with my dulcet Scouse accent, obviously. That makes him the perfect Manchester United fan. I mean, it's like when they all left the ground early. It's only because the coaches were getting ready to do it. It's a long way back.
That's right.
You know, it's a hell of a long way back, you know, like from there. I did like the image that was put up of the Lowry painting. Called leaving the ground early. I thought that was
They
fantastic.
tried to cover it up because you can see parts of the game where the upper tiers and all that were fucking empty, but they were saying only a certain percentage has left the ground. There were fucking loads leaving the ground.
Yeah. Well, I think, was it one of the commentators, was it Neville, said it's amazing the support they had and how many people stayed there to help the team on. I'm like, did you look at the pictures of how many people were leaving? If you've got 70,000 and 60,000 stay behind, it does seem like a lot of people, but 10,000 people did leave. Well, did anybody see the video clip? I don't know if this is real, right? But it shows side by side Solskjaer doing hand gestures to send instructions on the pitch, and Ronaldo's imitating him in a joking manner.
Yeah,
if you weren't late, we'd have covered that. But you're all right. You come across the ocean when you're ready.
Listen, not only do I show up late, I cover the subjects that have already been covered, but with my wonderful American accent.
I've done it myself in the past. I've left somebody. I always give Hurry say about 10 minutes after half time. And it's normally because back then they didn't sell fucking beer in the ground. I said, fuck this.
Austin doesn't go to church if there's not beer in the service.
Have you ever flounced, John? Have you ever had a flounce, John?
Not so much flouncing, but even when we win, I fucked off at half time a couple of times to go to the pub, you know what I mean? we go down at half time. There was a time when the steward wouldn't let us back up till Liverpool scored.
Yeah.
So you lads cannot go back up there till Liverpool have scored. You know the rules with you lot, taking the piss. Liverpool have scored, we go back up.
It's brilliant.
I think there was famously that guy in the Istanbul documentary who left when they were losing, and then by the time he got back to the hotel, it was all even, right?
I know it's a prime. I know it's a European Cup final, but you know we could be 3-0 down in a European Cup final, and still majority of us don't leave the stadium. You know, it's just.
We never done it. We never done it in those numbers. They've done it on Sunday, like you know. And they did try to fucking hide it. You took little glimpses of the crowd match today and all up in the sky, and you could see.
Well, that's the same way they present Etihad as a full stadium, Austin, as well, isn't it?
They pile everybody into one half.
It's like Arsenal's a sellout every single week. It's an awful lot of very thin, invisible people go to Arsenal.
But the last time they done that was when we beat them 4-1, was it? When Torres and Gerrard kissed the camera. They fucking mass exodus then, even like, you know, fucking once that.
Honestly, they're either invading the pitch or fleeing out of the ground. They can't make their fucking mind up which way they want to play it, can they?
That's it. They want to break in, like, you know, fucking, and just up the game when they want to break out.
I had a season ticket for a couple of years until children came along again. John, I can't ever remember Liverpool being booed off the pitch either, can you?
I've said that to the lads. I never went Jordan Hodgson years, to be fair, because I thought he was fucking shite. But I've never in my whole life been at a game where Liverpool have booed anybody off. I went to Burnley game in the FA Cup when we got beat 1-0, Traore. There wasn't booing. There was a bit of fucking shouting to the if that was fucking shite, but there was no like booing or like it went on forever. It just doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
You mean Jimmy? He just can't control his feet, Traore.
I went twice to that fucking game as well because I went the night it got blasted called off with the snow.
Oh, fuck.
Come on, we enjoyed days like that because you've just mentioned the H word. You know, I mean, we all had to endure that. You got to think of Manny. Manny joined not long after, you know, Hodgson was one of his first experiences and he's still a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, I started watching just after Istanbul. So I had all that long suffering without the joy of Istanbul.
Yeah, great fun. Okay, so the last thing we were going to touch on that as well is the repertoire of the songs that we managed to do. Matt, if you can find any of these to play.
Yeah, I've got
that was
those.
the other reason that Goldstein got up and walked out of the TalkSport studio was they kept playing Ollie, give us a wave.
Ollie at the wheel.
And Ollie's at the wheel to him while he was trying to protect as well. Ollie, give us a wave. I don't know if you heard it, you could hear JB Carragher laughing as well when that came up. And he obviously wasn't, you know, there are certain things they're not allowed to comment on. But that's where I think the comment was, can I go in there with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's not a side in the league that has, at least from my perspective, watching the games on that has as many songs as us, and in particular, songs dedicated to individual players. And I think that's what endears the players to the supporters, to the manager, to the club, that everybody feels a part of uplifting. Right, a rising tide raises all ships, and I think we do it better than anyone else.
Absolutely.
Just on that, like I just seen on that SCTV this week, Xavi Alonso saying his best moment for Liverpool is when he started singing a song about me. So obviously it does fucking impact on the player. You're not a Liverpool player till you get a song sung about you.
Mane complained, didn't he, that he doesn't have a song?
They sang about him during the Watford game, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's the first time I'd heard them sing about Mane.
So it was.
Allison needs one, right? You've got to figure. He's got to get one. No one celebrates the keeper.
Yeah, he's got one. Allison.
The lyrics quality of ABBA, mate. They're absolutely.
The only real shame, as we've mentioned before, was that Ozan Kabak didn't get to play a match with a crowd because his song was fucking gold. Oh my god! I was like, I would have re-signed him just for one match so the song could be sung, then send him on his way.
Manny, if that poor kid's career is going to go so far down the shitter, he's never ever going to have a song sung about him.
He went from Germany's worst side to England's worst side.
Yeah, dear oh Lord. From helping Liverpool just about scrape into the Champions League last year to that.
You would have thought we would have gifted Norwich that song, like, hey, just switch out Liverpool for Norwich and use that song. It's gold, right?
For me, it's Ozan Kabak or Matt Hancock who's had the worst year employment-wise. So I think, to be honest, as well. So
we did email them the song, but they can't fucking read, so no chance.
But Alex also get a song, but I'm disappointed in his recent goal scoring run. Has he scored?
Yeah, I mean he hasn't scored since last season. What is he up to?
So, John, what would it have been like? So you two and Austin travel a lot, obviously. 30-minute lock-in in Old Trafford after the game. I bet you'd have milked every second of that, lads, wouldn't you?
I think the lads didn't want to get out. They wanted an hour lock-in. They were having that much fun there. Do you know what I mean? It looked like an absolute party. And the Manx who've been videoing it, and you see other Manx just standing next to them, just like devastatedly distraught.
Why are they videoing Liverpool fans having a party?
Yeah, brilliant.
Superb. It looked awesome. Like, as I say, I was there fucking year when we beat them. We beat them 1-0 with fucking Murphy, like, and that was right at the very front, just as they were going out by the tunnel, like. And I'm standing like shouting, got there. Next thing you know, chin, like, was a fella from Belfast. Fuck off back home, you fucking Scouse bastard. And I had a bone in my hand. I said, fuck off back to Ireland, you fucking Irish cunt. Batted him on the nose. The steward dragged him away. Like, I go, yeah.
Yeah, Austin.
So, yeah, it would have been amazing.
Start an hour in an empty room, mate. I tell you can certainly.
I was my own business. I was fucking away. Next thing I'm getting harangued.
It must have been fantastic. And then, the last thing we're going to talk about before we talk about some other little bits and bobs as well is Jurgen giving it the full-on drama treatment of walking up to the crowd, shaping to fake away and do a Bobby Firmino and turn his head in the other direction before delivering the now obligatory 3 fist pumps that must have been some hell of a party to be in that end at that particular moment in it as well.
I didn't think he'd do that at Old Trafford. I thought he'd well, let's keep this calm, lads. Let's just get out of here. And then boom.
So what's the point of beating them 5-0 if you can't dance on their graves when you've done it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can I read you a couple of quotes?
Yeah, please do. Give us what the press said, James.
They're football related, right?
Oh, yes. So these are from before the match, but I just love them so much. I've got to read them out. So there's a pundit that's come up pretty much every pod this season.
Paul Merson.
Yes. And we've given him a lot of credit because he's been the voice of reason amongst all the idiots. But this is absolute gold, right? Yeah,
no, he deserves, before James says a word, he deserves every amount of the lambasting you're about to give him for this one.
So Paul Merson, before the game, said, "This is the biggest game of the Premier League weekend, and I've seen a lot of people say Liverpool are absolutely going to slaughter Man United. I don't buy into that narrative, and I'll tell you exactly why. Almost every player in the Manchester United starting 11 cost 50 million, and they are undoubtedly the biggest club in the world. They are playing at home against their arch rivals with a team like this, and no one gives them a chance. That's an absolute joke. And my other favourite pre-match quote from former...
Have you had lunch with Charlie that day?
I think he might have fallen off the wagon, sadly.
Yeah.
And someone should inform them they spent 50 million to buy a Ferrari with a Yugo engine.
And my other favourite quote comes from former Man United player Michael Owen, who says, United will no doubt play better than they did last week. Michael Owen.
Yeah. He gets paid for that, that he really does. I'm now going to ask you for your individual summary on the game, and I want your one particular highlight, and we'll start with our guest.
Yeah, as I say, it was a great win, but I'd have loved it to be an absolutely fantastic win. I say it was shown in the park training game for the last half an hour, which I really wanted them to go for the throat. I did 5-0 to be fair, and I cashed out at 5-0 because I was fucking gutted, and I thought we're going to get 8 or 9 here, and I'm gutted I cashed out. But
what price was that, John? Because I like a little bet myself.
It's about 80 to 1. No, sorry, 20 to 1. I think it was.
Yeah,
it wasn't mad but I cashed out at 5, thinking, we're going to get a load here, and then
I'd done Mo fucking last goal 4-1, and when they got the one cancelled, I was like,
well, I say it was a great performance, but I loved it to be an absolutely fantastic performance when we absolutely embarrassed them. Do you know what I mean? But I can see Jurgen's point where he just that it could be more comedic, just having a kick about for half an hour, not letting them anywhere near us. You know what I mean? Because they were trying the best, and we were just taking the piss out of them. Do you know what I mean?
James,
I think Keita, despite Salah's hat trick, I think Keita was my man of the match. But my highlight of the match was definitely Konate just crushing any Man United player return. I mean, as I said on the Facebook group, the best bit was Fernandes getting shoved, spinning round, and then realising that his eyes were looking into this guy's chest, and just looking up and going, "Oh, fuck me," and skulking off back to his rat hole. So, I mean, the defence with Konate in it looks as safe as Nazi gold in a Swiss bank. You know, it's rock solid. He's a quality player. 36 million as well.
Yeah. You can get 2 of them and have a bit of change for dinner out of a Harry Maguire, can't you?
Yeah, you could get 2 Maguires and pay for his bail in Greece.
Manny, your favourite moment?
So pulling off of that one, and not to be duplicative of James, I would say the part that I liked about that was just how much we bossed that skirmish, that it was essentially only the United play. No other United player ran in, right? Maguire didn't step in right. None of their big men had the balls to step up against our big men. It was essentially Fernandes, Ronaldo, Fred. The 3 who were in the area were the only 3 that stuck behind. Everybody else had the better sense to stay out of that mess. I think there's not a side that has more unity than us, right? I see City as our only competition in the league, and they certainly aren't even close. We're miles ahead of them when it comes to unity and cohesiveness. So I think that speaks volumes to our side.
I'll go next. For me, highlight Jordan Henderson's pass to Salah. It's just an absolute, I love things of football beauty. And then pure thuggery, Virgil van Dijk's chest on Ronaldo, and Ronaldo thinking, "Oh, that hurt." That was, I'm off. Yeah, that was that was the again. I come back to the unity. As you said earlier, John, we need that. We need a couple of nasty bastards who are you're not afraid to put the wind up at people as well. And yeah, I love that. You know, that's Souness, McMahon, Gerrard. You know, that's exactly what we've missed in a lot of places as well. So see that.
We've never had a few, have we?
Yeah, exactly. We've had 1 or 2 if we've been lucky before. And we've had a couple of shit house like Mascherano or Suarez that would do it, you know, off the ball and things like that. But proper hard men are
stock end, isn't he?
Yeah, proper hard men are in short supply in football. And my God, if those 2 were on the door at a nightclub, you wouldn't argue, would you? Let's be honest.
I've had my vaccines.
But if you say I haven't, No problem. I'll just go home. There you go. Austin.
Yeah, the highlights, just everyone fucking played brilliant. I'd say the 5-0 scoreline, but for me, the highlight was just in the stands. I thought the travelling cop were fucking fantastic from start to finish. You know, fucking rubbing it in. Goalie gives away. Fucking Ole's at the wheel. Fucking, you know, and having been there, like, you know, in the past, we've went in, they've obviously done 20 times and all that. Like, and this is after we've won the European Cup and all that. So, yeah, it would have been great to be in there on Sunday. Just, but on the pitch, save every man 10 out of 10, you know. And the fact is that we didn't even get out of third gear, you know.
There were two I didn't mention in the songs. Obviously, Can We Play You Every Week came out, which is always one of my favourites. And the other one is Getting a New Contract in the Morning, which I thought was quite good as well. Ollie Must Stay, getting a new contract, new contracts in the morning. I thought that was genius as well. I loved that as well. Matt.
My favourite bit, I think, was just the fact that we'd had like a training session for the last 30 minutes, which I thought was tremendous, because that's literally sticking two fingers up at United, because it was like a stroll. It was hilarious. Yeah, that was it, really. Apart from that, the rest was awesome. It was 90 minutes of pure joy.
Well, before we move on, we're going to talk about, there's a couple of other little bits that side issues for the game. But Matt found this statement from another Facebook group and shared it on ours. And I'm just going to read it out for people who are listening. It says, to the future generations of Liverpool fans, I want to talk to you about the 24th of October 2021. This is a picture of Manchester United fans leaving their own stadium after 64 minutes. We spent our childhood in the horrors of this club and their manager for 30 years. They won everything. They got all the referee decisions and late winners. They took our perch. Our own owners robbed us for every penny and chopped our legs. They mocked us endlessly. Steven Gerrard sacrificed his whole career to try and keep Liverpool alive. But our culture stayed. We kept supporting. We rebuilt. We rebuilt again. And we got up again. Klopp revived our souls. And then on this day, we went to Old Trafford and knocked Manchester United off our perch, while their greatest, Ronaldo, and their god, Sir Alex Ferguson, watched on helplessly. This day is for Steven Gerrard. This day is for the generation that never walked alone, even when it looked lost. You are now the generation that owns the greatest club and philosophy in the greatest league in the world. Trust the culture, keep the faith, and rise like nothing ever has before. You'll never walk alone. It's almost poetry, lads, that, isn't it?
It's a tear to the eye.
Who wrote that? Solskjaer?
Yeah, golly.
I don't know that he can write.
I like the fact that if you put D at the front of his tracksuit and HIT, you get dog shit.
Dog shit, yeah. I don't think he's allowed a pen to write with because he'll kill himself after that game. So
the thing is, though, that actually that leads us quite nicely into the next episode, because he did remind me of someone, and his whole position reminds me of someone that's associated to the club. Because even when he looks furious, he's like Matt says, he looks like a school teacher standing in the playground, doing his best to try and raise his temper to tell off some unruly children. But his whole situation reminded me, I don't want to be disparaging because, you know, it was one of the boot room boys, but a bit of Roy Evans, really, like a guy that it's a bit too much for. You know, like Roy's a legend within the club for different reasons. So Solskjaer obviously scored a winner in a Champions League final for him, and that must make it even harder for them to want to wave the white hankies at him. But I just felt an awful lot of similarities where you get a club that have just given the job to the wrong person, and nobody really wants to be the one to go up and take the toys away from him. John, what do you think?
I don't think Roy Evans ever wanted the job anyway, do you know what I mean? And he was meek in his managerial status that he had. Okay, he probably needed to be a little bit harder. The thing I find with Solskjaer, he's been an arrogant bastard since the day he got the job for no real reason. He's won fuck all with them, but thinks he's got the arrogance of like a Mourinho, and I fucking can't stand Mourinho, but he's won stuff. Solskjaer's got the arrogance of him and won fuck all,
What you mean? Come on, a year with Cardiff City, and you're going to put that down?
Mould.
Mould.
Famous Mould.
He coached the club that could best describe his personality.
Yeah, mouldy. Yeah, exactly. No, I just looked at the similarities. I mean, I think
it's been a bit unfair on Roy Evans because he pushed us close to the title, won us the League Cup. That's nothing. But he's, as I say, he's as John touched on, like he wasn't hard enough on some of the players.
I still think Roy took the reason I made the analogy, Austin, is I thought Roy took the approach of I'll play the good ones. Honestly, I thought that was Roy's philosophy. And I know it was a different era, but in those days, it was your good players go out. A lot of early coaches things were you're all good players, just go out and show you're better than them. Obviously, the game and a lot of things have changed, sports science, blah 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 blah. I understand all of that, but we were soft. We were soft. The team as in general were soft touch under them. We didn't have like an enforcer. As we touched on earlier, like playing for the likes of Roy, we had the Roddick and all at the back, but he was a bit of a clown sometimes, but
we had David James as well.
David James, no fucking calamity. But as I say, I wouldn't even that's unfair to compare them. I think
they strike me of where we were now pre-Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Roy Evans because I thought of him during the post-match roasting of Gary Neville because they were talking about bringing in experience and Neville saying, we've got Solskjaer who took Cardiff down and we brought in Phelan who took Hull down. And I'm surprised he didn't mention the Houllier Evans situation because it seemed to be there hanging in the air, but he didn't reach for it. And it could only be because he knew he'd just get absolutely shredded by Souness and Carragher.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I just noticed. Just felt for some similarities, but the overall point being, you can't. Pardon me, guys. You can't be that way in football. You've got someone trying to be, quite rightly, as you said, John, trying to take a little bit of what he feels is the Ferguson steel and the Mourinho demeanour to someone who looks like they're trying to give detention to a bunch of players that clearly haven't got the slightest fucking bit of respect for him whatsoever. Absolutely zero. And you get the Atalanta bit of oh no, look at them clearly. Look at this comeback. They're playing for their manager. No, not in the slightest.
Playing despite their manager.
No, it's.
At the end of the day, if you look, he was just a super sub for them as well. He was always on the bench. He was the mainstay of the team.
Well, perhaps we should go and get David Fairclough and give him the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they call him a legend, but he wasn't really a legend. Like Austin said, he was just a super sub.
Well, he scored that goal in the Champions League.
Yeah, he won him the Champions League, didn't he? That's it, effectively. So yeah, that's that. The Vorsprung Deutsch.
I think we'll clearly see in the next match whether he really has any power in that club, which he doesn't, right? I think we all know that.
You do know
that whole bit of Ronaldo mimicking him on the pitch. If that was Klopp and a Liverpool player did that on the pitch, he would not see the next game, right? I think there was the whole thing with Sacco where I don't know if you remember, there was that preseason video that came out where Sacco's doing the whole video shit. And he kind of mentions, oh, I got in trouble with the manager, right? And then a couple of weeks later, he sold on, right? Yeah, I think you either control the club or you don't control the club. And he clearly is a passenger on that team. And Ronaldo will start. It doesn't matter how silly he tries to make him look with any of the instructions he tries to send in. And that is just indicative of how that whole club is run.
So the biggest game in club world football, I think that's undisputed. So what message, boys, did that send to the rest of the watching world now?
That Man United is shit.
Yeah. I think it also sends out a big message in the Champions League potential winners, conversation. We are never mentioned at all. And I think every other team has to be shitting their pants if they have to face us. There's how we are not in the same breath as PSG, who their combined front three, who are supposedly the world's best, don't even have a combined goal scoring total of Salah on his own. How we are not in that conversation is beyond me.
Well, this will make you feel even better because the humiliation the sacrifice and the culling of Manchester United at the weekend was watched by 1.3 billion people around the world. Now,
That's incredible.
And much like the Anchorman, that doesn't take into account families with more than one TV watching the game. So,
or the illegal streams.
Exactly.
That's right.
But what are they, James?
I've no idea. I've just
no idea whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Be careful, or James will be putting in a bid.
We keep a running list of the ones we shouldn't go on.
That was a good gag, and you spoke all the way over it. I'm going to repeat it now. I said, be careful, James will be launching a bid to run Newcastle. Right, now you can say your point, Manny.
We keep a running list of the sites we don't want people going to.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because we're conscientious objectors.
Absolutely. We will,
to these dodgy feeds that would obviously save people money and get them matches they wouldn't otherwise see.
And stop putting money in Rupert Murdoch's pocket. Not that we've got anything against that whatsoever, of course, as well, on Pass&Move as well.
Potential Man United owner, Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, exactly.
I watched it down at the fucking weekend on Saturday. I had to go to be Mason watch the match.
So, 1.3 billion people saw the implosion of a football club. I wonder what damage that'll have on their share price, Matt, eventually. Manny, you mentioned we'll see how much power he's got by their next game. Well, their next game, they're away to Spurs. Now, to be honest, by the way, look to Harry Kane's stats at the weekend. The boy's on fire, isn't he? 1 goal, 1 assist, and lots of mooching around the pitch. That's going really well. That's a good decision there by Daniel Levy not to take the money and keep a miserable bastard. Probably got something to do with appointing the 15th person in line for the job, really, isn't it? It's a bit like making Prince Harry the next king. So they've got Tottenham away. Then, of course, our last comment on United is they've got Man City at Old Trafford after that. Now, I don't give a shit about Man United's results. I don't give a shit about Manchester City's results unless we're playing them. But I've got a sneaking feeling I might tune in to watch that one. Because, let's be honest, lads, we didn't even play that well, really, did we?
No, and I can't remember who said it, but I read today someone saying, I'm terrified of Man United playing Man City because they might only beat us 1-0. But they'll take the piss for 90 minutes just holding the ball.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I also can't remember who said that as well.
With City, everyone keeps, saying they need a recognized striker, and that's what's holding them back. Anybody know who the recognized striker on our side is? That we keep scoring multi-goal games this entire season, right? We play with a false 9. We really don't have a striker, and somehow scoring doesn't seem to be an issue for us.
Yeah, but the problem, Manny, the problem you've got is you're just, you're not giving Divock Origi the respect that he deserves.
I just don't like Belgians. That's the problem.
The way that guy motivates the front three from sitting on the bench week in, week out, I just think he's legendary.
Yeah. He's just busy giving Pickford nightmares.
Yeah, that's. Let's be honest. You got to play him against the Bitters, John. And you got to play him against the Bitters.
He's got to come on. Yeah, he's got to make an appearance.
Yeah. So they had a good weekend, John, didn't they? They had a great weekend. I mean, they only had Watford. I mean, guaranteed. What the fuck happened there? Guaranteed 3 points against Watford.
I had a feeling after we absolutely battered Watford, I thought they're going to beat Everton because they're going to come back with their tails between their legs, absolutely fucking pissed off. Everton are shite, basically, aren't they? You can't polish a turd. That's what I keep saying. I like Benitez. You cannot polish a turd. They've spent another team who spent like millions on players who were just not a team. Do you know what I mean? So Watford, I'm fucking made up.
Yeah, me too.
Laughing my fucking head off.
One of my favourite tweets I did over the weekend was, I can't remember seeing a team getting battered 5 at home since yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was very indicative, too, of if you recall back to the Rafa years we had, he would make these signings where you're like, who and why? And then, right, it was always on a shoestring budget. When I saw he signed Solomon Rondon, I'm like, the guy who couldn't score a single fucking goal when he was at West Brom, he's your solution for your attack. I'm like, it's such a bad signing.
No, they are shocking. But never mind, they've got that lovely new stadium down by the docks, fellas, haven't they?
You put a new cone out on Monday. You've got 4 traffic cones there now.
Is there anything actually happening there at all yet?
Yeah, they've got a fourth corner out.
Yeah, they're bottling all the tears to water the grass to say conserve money.
Because
I did and put the team in it.
I did some work for a guy a couple of years ago who was on the project for scoping out all the like construction bits and pieces for Bramley Moor. But I didn't really hear anything after that. That was about 18 months, 2 years ago.
You know, you're probably as much aware as the Everton board are, Matt, by the sound of it. You know,
they've got a blue tractor. I think that's all they've got in.
A blue tractor.
I assume it's all fallen apart because weren't they going to build a stadium with Tesco's in it? And then Tesco's pulled out.
I don't know.
That was
that should become Everton's motto, shouldn't it? Every little helps.
Yeah. Well, I think there's laws against serving food next to shit, so you can't possibly have a supermarket next to that toilet.
So, poor old Everton. Yeah, poor old Everton. Yeah, and that was my other, you know, to link the thing together, because it feels like we just throw this show together when, of course, we just throw this show together. Is you got to look at the fact that Everton used to sell. So Manchester United used to sell their players to Everton. It was a bit like shuffle them across the northwest. You had Phil Neville, the American with a beard like Bin Laden, Tim Howard in goal, like them. Loads of United players, cleverly, loads of them used to shuffle across to Everton. And now they've done that so often, they've become Everton in their own city.
One of my favourite tweets of the weekend was someone saying Everton fans had to watch their favourite team lose by 5 goals, and then they had to watch Everton lose to Watford.
Well, it's been a wonderful week. And the last thing I'd like to talk to you about, it's not a big 6, it's not a big 4, it's a 3-horse race.
Yeah.
What do you think of the opposition? The top 3 teams are well and truly bedded in at the moment as well. Again, coming back to James's favourite subject, Gary Neville getting everybody the wobbles because Daniel Farce car basically does this really well, James, doesn't he? Daniel Farce does the pensive look of the finger on the lips really well, whilst the 7 goals being smashed in past your hapless Tim Krul.
We can't talk about these topics. We cannot be talking about these topics right now.
Chelsea smashed 7 past Watford at home. No great surprise. To be fair, they did it without either of their recognised forwards. But let's be honest, Timo Werner wouldn't have added to the goals on that tally anyway.
Yeah, they would have, hit a few off the crossbar, a couple off the post. They would have added to the excitement.
2 or 3 offside, perhaps. That would have been about it.
But then one well wide of the goal.
It's an interesting next seven fixtures ahead for all teams. I've been looking at them there today.
Run us through who we've got and who they've got.
We've got Brighton at home, West Ham away, and then after the international break, Arsenal at home, Southampton at home, Everton away, Wolves away, Villa, and then Newcastle at home. That takes it up to Christmas. City.
Are you saying we've got 9 weeks off?
that takes it up to Christmas. But then I think it's going to be interesting then after Christmas for us because we're going to be losing Salah, Manny.
Isn't it only for 2 games?
I feel like
they can't make their mind up how many games they're actually going to miss, though, can they? It might be Chelsea, might be one of the games that they miss, which would be obviously a problem. But I keep reading different reports on whether they miss 1 game or 3 games by going away. But it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, James, is it? It's nowhere near as bad.
Well, that and on top of that, they announced today that it may not even happen. It was on the BBC today that the AFCON may not actually go ahead because of organisational shambles, which is a shock for the African Cup of Nations.
I also smell that we'll pull another for COVID restrictions and everything else. These aren't safe countries for the players to travel to and then come back and then be able to play with us, much like we did with that first. Where were they going? Brazil, was it? That they. To be fair,
I mean, we were giving Naby Keita some serious props at the start of the pod. But when you look back at his season and it's had being airlifted out of a war zone in it, the lad's not done too badly at all, really, is he?
How's he doing in Iton?
That's what you get for going to the chippy after 10, John. That's what that is.
I'll stop it.
Austin, give us what have City got?
City, they've got, it's very similar, like similar teams that they've got near enough to yourselves. They're Palace next, then they've got United away, which is a fucking gimme. Then Everton at home, which is a gimme. West Ham at home, Villa away, Watford away, which maybe could be a potential, but and Wolves and Leeds at home then before the Christmas period kicks in.
Yeah, I fear for Leeds. I think there's one of James's famous frauds is about to get caught out, James, isn't he, there?
Yeah, I mean, they were talking whilst they were losing to Arsenal today, saying, "Oh, Leeds' problem is they got no squad depth." Leeds' problem is they're shit, and everyone just crawls up Bielsa's colon, or he squats on them, and they've got no. They bang on about Bielsa. They don't do anything I haven't seen before.
More like Beelzebub than Beelzeball.
Yeah, exactly. You get a one-season bounce when you come up and get away with it. I grew up.
Lee Hendry was saying what Leeds need to do now is push on to the next level. It's like, no, what Leeds need to do is get away from that bottom three.
Yeah, they need to realize that defense is a part of the game.
That was a season where basically West Ham got away with it because no one knew what to expect. And last year, Leeds got away with it effectively. People I've got a lot of time for at the moment are probably Graham Potter, who I think has done a very decent job so far. Looks quite promising. And Brentford, I love Brentford because we talk about teams with team spirit and ability. They're not blessed with the most overall ability, but fuck me, if I was, I wouldn't mind watching Brentford play because I think they give it 100% from the moment they go on the pitch to off. From the moment they scored that wonderful boys 11 Sunday Park goal against Arsenal in the opening game of the season, I thought to myself, I'm going to enjoy watching this year. This is going to be fun, But whether they'll get away with it for more than one season, I've got no idea. Austin.
Problem with sides like that is they kind of get their best talent gets picked away, fairly early on, right? Someone's going to come in for Tony, and then their whole system kind of collapses after that.
I'd like to see Tony with us as another alternative to a potential alternative to Origi. I'd love to see what Klopp could do with someone like Tony. I really would like to.
Their entire model is built on that, though, so I'm sure they'll be fine. Their entire model is built on selling players, so they'll be fine.
Who said
Austin, that? So are we worried about City? Because they are, it's going to come down to the wire, and it might come down to the results between the three. But they're looking fairly in good form at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah. Despite they put past there at the weekend, they scored goals there at the weekend, didn't they? And 4 or 5 was it, or 6 maybe more? I don't know.
Always 4 or 5. Yeah, it's always 4 or 5.
But I think the short come. I think because they haven't replaced Aguero, that could maybe potentially cost them in the long run. Hopefully,
it's not a happy shit though, John. Is it, Man City?
No, I think they're more worried about us than we are of them. And I don't think they've got that great a squad depth. I think they have a few injuries or a few key players. They're knackered. Do you know what I mean? Where we could take it. We've had fucking injuries over the last year or so, and a lot of injuries, and we've had people to come into their positions and play. I think they'd struggle if they had a few injuries to the people who bring in. Do you know what I mean? So I still think we'll win the league. That's a bold statement from John.
No, not this pub, mate. We all said we were going to win the league at the start of the season as well.
I said that every year.
Yeah, no, I couldn't see beyond us. I didn't even have Chelsea in the mix. It was us or City and everybody else trailing in our wake again, to be honest. And I don't see anything to change that. And the last set of fixtures, who have Chelsea got, Austin?
Chelsea, Newcastle away at the weekend, so you don't know what they're going to get there. Like with the Burnley,
beheaded.
Yeah, might do us all a favour. But they've got Burnley then at home, and then maybe tricky fixture after the international break, Leicester away. United at home, not a gimme. Watford away, shouldn't go. Like West Ham away, Leeds at home, and then the Blue Shade at home, Everton as well. That's just before the Christmas period.
West Ham could throw a few curveballs into that, and if I were, I'm going to nick Ole Gunnar soft shite. I like that. Thanks, John. That's going to well. If I were Ole Gunnar soft shite, I'd be looking over my shoulder at the chosen one, wouldn't you? Because if anyone's going to make
a comeback, the Messiah, the second coming.
If anyone's going to nick their place in the top four, it'll be Matt's second team, Matt, won't it?
Who's that? Oh, West Ham.
There you go. Yeah.
Very funny.
He gets a lot of
that. John, for last year's predictions, Matt had West Ham winning out the remainder of the season when we were trying to call out games. We're probably, 15 out? We were trying to call out the rest of the season, and Matt had West Ham never losing a match. So
he's not a West Ham supporter. So I'm definitely not a West Ham supporter. The only thing I think Matt can be disappointed about at the weekend is that we finally had the chance. Matt predicts 8-0 in every single podcast prediction that we're going to do as well. So
normally neither.
Yeah, if we were ever going to get close to it, that would have been the one.
I was calling that 8-0. That I was like, Matt, we're going to hit that 8-0 finally. It didn't happen. So sad.
I think what's to notice about these fixtures as well, I've known, is when we're away, they're away, and when we're at home. So I think the league could be won on the road.
Yeah. But I think one of the points John made earlier that I liked is, when you think of City, they don't seem as good as us. There's clearly cracks in that armor. And I think part of that problem stems from when you keep signing the single most expensive player you can buy, you have a team of players who no one wants to sit on the bench. And once you start sitting those players on the bench, you're going to get discontent and the unity is going to start to crack and people are going to start wanting to jump ship and it's not going to be as cohesive, right? I think because we have bought people for certain jobs in certain places, we don't really have a bench who's like, I should be starting and for that, I'm going to leave and I'm going to destroy the locker room spirit. Whereas City, I feel Sterling sitting on the bench, anyone who's on the bench wants to be starting and they're not happy to be there. And that destroys the unity that club has.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you, but at the same time, not disagree with all of your point. I think you've just hit upon what is the greatest difference between Jurgen Klopp and Guardiola. Because for me, the difference between the two is he doesn't really give a shit about his players. It's all about the project. Okay, they're all interchangeable pieces that he can pick and move on a chessboard and put in. And if he discards one for a given period of time, or he buys one that doesn't fit, it doesn't really bother him. It's not in that man's psyche. Whereas I think Klopp uses the fact that he's only got 11 places to motivate people, because we said it earlier, our team is completely interchangeable. When Curtis Jones came on, it was seamless. Give him a couple of minutes, as you said, James, to get into the game, but it was seamless. There's no change to the formation. You mentioned it yourself, James. Someone smacks a diagonal ball from one, across the pitch. You know that the teammate on the other side will be in the right position to pick it up. Mane comes on. I mean, Mane's been, there's people been trying to make, stuff out of Mane's frustration for ages. It's only because he shows it. But Klopp uses the frustration of leaving Mane out, puts him on 15 minutes. And until he realised it was a kickabout, if there was a couple of times he could have laid Jones in and then Jones could have laid him in and they would be mouthing off at each other for not doing it because Mane's thought, fuck this, I want to score. Right? And he used Klopp's man management ability is the biggest thing he's got over Guardiola. The fact that Guardiola's got an open checkbook, so has Tuchel. Right? But I think that Man City's a fractured dressing room and will get worse. And as James and I are always in agreement on, Thomas Tuchel won't go the whole season without pissing off half that squad.
No, Tuchel's going to fall out of that squad. And City's biggest problem is the increasing number of their club ending up in jail on sex charges. God knows who'll be left by the end of the season.
Is there a trophy for that?
To be fair, the Northwest Prisoners 11 would give Man United a good game.
It's interesting though. the toughest game in the run Austin laid out for us is probably the next one, Brighton.
Yeah. Because Brighton will come and have a go. Brighton, like Brentford, will come and have a go.
Yep.
And I feel Brighton is one of those sides that kind of gets a bit of the calls from the referees simply because they are the weaker side. So they kind of get a little bit of, I feel, generous calls, right? Because they do play an attractive style. They do try to win. They do try to play a good format. And I think for that, the officials usually give them calls in their favor where they probably
we saw that the weekend, Manny, where the weaker side should have had 4 red cards. And
We're just merciful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think to your point, Andrew, where you were saying about Klopp, right? Look at the example of there's articles now coming out about how what's going on with Ginny, and he's not starting and he's not seeing matches at PSG. Yet at the same time, there's been zero talk of Konate not getting a match, even though he's only started 2, right? So it clearly goes to show the mentality between the 2 different managers, right? It's expected that in a Klopp system, everyone is part of the grander scheme and that it takes time to ramp a player up to get there. Somehow at PSG, Gini Wijnaldum is not afforded that same luxury, right? And I think it really does speak volumes to the type of manager Klopp is. And what he has instilled in the football community is how you should treat a team in the long view.
What was the sentence, John, to Coutinho from Klopp? If you stay, they'll build a statue.
Yeah.
If you go, you'll just be another name, another name on a team sheet.
Yeah. You'll be on a Spanish club and needing to learn to speak German.
Never a truer word spoken. So, and our universal praising of Jurgen Klopp. So, I think from what you said there, Austin, I think Chelsea's games sound the hardest of the 3.
Yeah.
I think we can.
A couple of bananas, as I say, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be. I think the Christmas period could be key because we've got a couple of games over the Christmas period. Who we got Leeds at home. We're away for 2 games over the Christmas period as well, so that could prove key. But we've proved in the past, like we went to Leicester and banged.
You said the swear words in your review of Liverpool's games as well. You said the words international and break.
Yeah. That's mid-November, so we come back to Arsenal at home, City come back to Everton at home, Chelsea Leicester away. So potential banana skin there for.
Is anybody else sick of international breaks?
Yeah. But don't worry, it's going to get better. They're going to go to World Cups every 2 years, so that should solve the international break shithousery.
Absolutely. Who gives a fuck about international? For Christ's sake, as well.
I can't stand the part that kills me is
that's a debate for another night.
Yeah, the season starts and then the season starts a couple weeks into like international break. We're like, we just started. What is there a break for? We're 2 weeks in. Why is there a break? Drives me mental.
Drives me mental as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the day that we buried the corpse of Manchester United, and they dug it up and reanimated Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and have basically said he's at the wheel, he's taking the club forward, and I think we should all raise a glass to him and wish him every success in his continued mediocrity, and just keep your eyes. All I would say, Ollie, is keep your eyes on that Portuguese bloke because he really doesn't like you. A bit like being here, isn't it, lads? Thank you very much for joining us, John. You're welcome anytime. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Lads, thank you.
Austin, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Enjoy Ireland.
Thank you. Well done.
I'd like to point out that you can hear James making his debut on the radio station 365 online next week as well, where he'll be covering Britpop classics, won't you, James, for us for 2 hours a week.
I will.
Yeah. 24/7 Radiohead.
So keep your eyes out for that. 365 online, you'll be able to download that from the website as well. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. I know it's been a bit hairy for you at times in this conversation.
Good thing you didn't have to tear your hair out.
Yeah.
Be a pricey,
it's already been torn out. You can't see the back. It's a mess.
Rudy.
You're not shagging grands on the side, are you?
Well, there you go. He had to go there.
There we
trying
go.
to get the closure of the pod line out before someone mentioned Granny.
Keeping it classy. I show up late. inappropriate jokes. Job done. Let me get my checklist.
You are the Dave Chappelle of passing.
You're a four-eyed granny, Shagger.
Gentlemen, this has been Pass and Move, which is the 365 production. You can find it on all the places that you get your podcast, but you know that because you're listening to it to hear me say it. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you on the other side. I've been Moose. Up the Reds, lads. Up the mighty Reds.
The Reds.
Good. Have a great night, boys.
Bye-bye.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Cheers.
O relógio já passou dos 49 prometidos pelo árbitro. Cai a chuva. Que tensão. Cobrança de escanteio. Alisson! Alisson! Gol!